Mentor Emotion,
an outstanding mentoring program for West African.
Hi everyone, salam alaikum. Welcome to our cultural panel, series 1. On today's panel, we have Yalissa, Elaj, Jamie, Huja, Sohna, Jibi, and Rama. Thank you all for being on the panel today. My name is Nela Sek, and I'm your host.
And I'm Ami, and I'm your co-host. So today, the focus of the discussion is to give a voice to the youth and for parents to have an understanding and to listen of their child's perspective in regards of culture and identity. The goal of this series is aimed at bridging the culture gap that many children and adults face when balancing multiple cultural identities, and I feel like all of us can relate to it. So to begin with, Nella will start off by giving us the general definition of what culture actually is.
Thank you, Aminata. Culture is the learned behavior generally considered to be the tradition of a group of people, and this behavior is said to be transmitted from generation to generation.
And we brought up gap, and this is the gap between. So how would you explain the cultural gap between parents and kids? So, i.e., how would you explain the barrier of being raised in a foreign land to immigrant parents? I know this one does not hit with it does relate to having the African American culture, also battling what having with the Senegalese, Mauritanian, with the African culture in general. So how would you explain that to, for example, your mom? I don't know how I would explain that to my mom, but how would you guys explain it? Maybe that would help me out.
I feel like there's between our parents and us, I feel like there's a cultural gap, but not only that, there's also a generational gap.
Mm-hmm.
And that our parents were raised with these specific traditions and beliefs, and they may be raising us with those ideologies, but we're also being raised and we're growing up in a society that's completely different. So while at home we have these values and stuff, when we leave the house we have other things that are like building us up kind of. And I feel like sometimes that can be difficult to understand because for my mom, for example, she was born and raised in Senegal. There's things that she would never do, but I think it's fine here because that's what the society says that's totally cool. For example, in some countries it's women have to learn how to cook and clean and take care of family. While here I was raised to think I have to go to school, I have to get an education and be able to provide for not only myself, but I don't need a man to take care of or anything like that.
Thank you, Yalissa. You made really good points.
The way I think about the cultural gap, between parents, for me, I know personally, my mother is very strict, when it comes to me going outside and hanging out with friends, cause she even though she trusts me, I know she trusts me. She might think I'm doing something wrong or something, this, doing drugs or alcohol or something like that, and some say she's very conservative when it comes to that nature because she's Muslim, and her culture definitely forbids stuff like that. So I know personally for me, it's if I was in Senegal, she would think she would be a little less strict when it comes to stuff like that because she would know it's people that share those same values and stuff like that. But when I'm here, she has to know who I'm hanging out with, where I'm going, all this other stuff. She has to know their parents and all this other stuff. So I know for me personally, it's definitely it's a complete 360 when it comes to how she's raising me here to how she will be raising me in a place like Senegal.
Very good points, Elaj.
I was gonna say, for example, your parents might be more harsh towards the culture and spreading it. For example, they might want you to speak more Wolof or French and not speak as much English. Because for me personally, I speak English with my siblings, and now they're starting to speak English, and my dad is getting mad at me. So he wants me to start speaking French with them. So basically, I'm more or less not allowed to speak English in the house. The only times I'm allowed to speak English is with my friends or in school. So yeah, they're definitely more harsh with the culture.
Jamie, does that make any impact on you?
No, not necessarily because I was raised in Senegal, and when I came here, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like everybody else. So I started speaking more English, and I wouldn't speak as much Wolof or French. I would still understand it, but I would barely speak it. And now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing that this is my culture. This is who I am. I should start embracing it and speaking more.
And so those of you who have siblings, and if you're like in the middle or older, what impact do you think you have on your younger siblings when it comes to culture? And how
My
do you help
siblings,
your parents?
yeah, my siblings copy everything I do. So say, I would say a phrase or a funny word, they would start saying that too. And then, for example, I have a little brother, a little sister, then a baby brother. So my little brother would start saying that, then my little sister would start saying it, and then it would just keep going down like that. So it's definitely very important that I watch what I do around them, not to influence them in a bad way.
Thank you, Jamie. I think we had more who wanted to speak.
Yeah, I have two things to say. About the siblings thing. Like, I'm the youngest, so I have no younger siblings. But every time I'd come back from school, like, I'd speak English in the house because I just learned that language and it was my first language. And then as I got older, my parents were concerned because they thought I'd never learn Wolof. But when I was 9, I went to Senegal for the first time and I learned Wolof, and now I speak Wolof in the house. And when I go to school or with my friends, I speak English.
So does anyone feel like, more, you can also answer this, that you kind of are like a switch, or that you code switch sometimes depending on your environment?
Well, yeah, I was born here, so yeah, I'm kind of like a switch.
Yeah, also, I would agree with that. I do code switch a lot, even in my, I guess, older age. Like, depending on the environment I'm in, when I'm around my Senegalese friends, I can full blown be Senegalese. And then when I'm around, like, a situation where I'm only there with African Americans, I can full blown be African American. And it just, I think it's important to have a code switch, to be able to code switch, when I say, because it just not, your culture is not accepted everywhere. And sometimes when you're somewhere where you have to, like, you are a minority, you do have to, I don't know, ease up to the majority. It's not about putting yourself down with anything. It's just about kind of fitting in, but also being able to know who you are and where you come from. Well, like, to answer the quick sibling question, my sisters were born and raised here, never been to Senegal. I was sent to Senegal and came back. They literally learned Wolof by me yelling at them in Wolof. Because whenever I get upset, I start yelling in Wolof. So literally, they learned Wolof by me just going off in Wolof. And that's it. Now they repeat the same things that I tell them. So there's one thing that they can gain from it.
Just going off of that, anyone else who'd like to speak, kind of talk also about being a chameleon or code switching, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, definitely talking about this. I've definitely glitched sometimes. For example, since I speak English outside and French inside, like a French word would slip when I'm talking with my English friends, or I would end up talking Wolof, and they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" So, yeah, it's definitely happened, but like it's almost as if it's almost as if you're two-faced. Like when you're home, you're a completely different person from when you're in school.
Does that affect you anyway, like mentally, Jamie?
No, definitely not. It's just like random slips. They barely ever happen, probably once or twice.
You
When
shouldn't
I
think
say
of. I feel
mental,
like, sorry.
it's okay,
Yeah,
Elijah, go ahead.
I feel like you shouldn't look at it like you're a different person. Like, when I feel like when people reference code switching, it's not like you're changing your identity or something. It's just like you changing the way that you like speak. Like, you change your vocabulary, the way you like the way you interact with people. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you trying to like be able to communicate the best way you can possibly in a situation or circumstance.
I definitely like adding to that, I definitely think it's like a skill now, because it's like, okay, when you're in this situation, you're able to like code change, yeah, like you guys said. And like growing up, I definitely felt that, like I came here when I was 8, and like it's young, and I would go to school, so I like started learning English, and that was the only thing I spoke at home. But my mom like didn't like me speaking English at home because she's like, okay, like Senegalese, like actually like tap into your like Senegalese side. And I feel like I didn't really like tap into my Senegalese side until I was in high school. And at that point I was just like, like trying to like figure like who you are. And I feel like when you're at that like stage, it's so important. And like I went to Senegal, and like that like helped that much more. Like honestly, I feel like visiting Senegal is like the best thing ever, because it's just like you're in a place where everyone looks like you. So it's like you're not like, and not an outsider, but like you fit in, like you are there now. Like what makes you like stand out? And I feel like being able to like speak different language, it's definitely a skill, and it like trains your like mind different. And yeah, so I would like, after that I was just like, yeah, Wolof like is it.
Adding on to Fatu, my sister. Yeah, going to Senegal and back is really, really good because, first of all, yeah, you learn two languages. Second of all, it's really good to like look at your culture. Like, for example, I was born here in America, and it's really good to like see your culture and see what's everybody's doing, and like yeah.
I
Thank
do
you.
comment about the language. For me, what I've noticed is that not only do I code switch a lot, when I meet someone who's from Senegal and they speak French, I notice that I'll mix the languages. Like
Yep.
even if
Ah,
any language that I speak, like I speak 5 languages, but if I know that you speak 2 or more, I'll mix all of the languages together in one. So that's also something that I've noticed when it comes to language. You know that,
yes.
That's
You
so
taught me a lot.
I would just like to say that one, to everybody here who speaks multiple languages, you're smarter than the average person. Science has proven that people who speak multiple languages are culturally different, like have different cultures, have higher brain plasticity and higher retention, like memory skills. So you are actually very smart, all of you, and the fact able to speak Frangolov or whatever 3 languages and combine it into one sentence, that alone is a skill. And I would just like to say to all of you younger ones who are in high school, being able to code switch is just environmental adaptation. And it is a highly, highly valuable skill. And you won't understand until you're older and you walk into rooms where people who you've never seen, all walks of life, and you'll be able to have a conversation with anybody. You'll be able to walk into a room and feel comfortable because you've seen all types of crazy stuff. Like honestly, like Senegalese moms are crazy enough. Like if you can deal with that, you can do with anything. So just remember that you are extremely smart, and these are skills that you are born with and that you will take on to anywhere in life. Like you can live anywhere and be okay because you've culturally adapted to American culture, to other places that you guys have lived. And then going back to the question of like the cultural gap between us and our parents and how we kind of bridge that gap, I would just like to say that it is probably one of the most challenging things in my life personally is the cultural gap between me and my parents. And some examples like I would like to bring up, and maybe you guys can like say some stuff about it if you have experienced it. It is one kind of my own political views. I feel that my parents are very conservative for people who are immigrants, and they tend to have kind of conservative values. Maybe a religion thing, maybe who knows. But I like think that I'm liberal. I think that I'm a feminist, and sometimes I have very heated conversations with my parents about it, and they don't understand the concept of being a feminist and being a liberal and people who are accepting of others from all walks of life. Like they are pretty protective too. That's also another thing that I kind of butt heads with my parents a lot, especially as a girl, because they think that if you are a girl, you should definitely be somebody who should be at home majority of the time. That if you're a girl who's always outside, that is like a bad look on you and your parents. So I could be out doing nothing. Like I could be at the grocery store and it's still not like, I guess good enough for them. So like definitely anybody who has experienced that can chime in. But like in general, I would just say that our generation, we tend to have to deal with not only fitting into certain cultures like American culture, but also butting heads with our parents a lot and kind of fighting back on certain things that we think we should have the right to do and say. And one thing, the last thing I would say is just like something that I want my parents to learn as an American thing that's not necessarily a Senegalese thing is like apologies. Like Senegalese parents don't apologize in my experience, and I just feel like sometimes when you're wrong as a person, you should apologize. But anyways, you guys can chime in.
Yeah, my dad definitely tells me that a lot, that I would be more likely to get a job if, for example, I would say that I speak two languages, English and French, because say you would have a customer that only speaks French, you would be the one that would be able to work with them the best because you're the one there that speaks French. So it definitely does help a lot being able to speak multiple languages, which is why I'm guessing he's not really letting me speak English and having me speak Wolof and French.
Yeah, my dad, he owns a shoe shop and he speaks so many languages. He speaks Wolof, English, Spanish, a little bit of Korean, like even more. And he like he has a lot of customers from around the world, so yeah, it's helpful.
I feel like with the cultural gaps, sometimes my mom and I butt head. Like, I could be saying that, um, like, I have this a specific belief about like when it comes to like sexuality, for example. Like, I have friends who don't identify as straight, and sometimes I not necessarily. My mom is like really like she's pretty liberal with things, and for the most part, like if I'm talking to one of my friends, or like people I know, they won't tell their like how do I say this? There's like a lot of like people that I know that are in the African culture. They don't want to come out to their parents because they know that their parents are probably going to have a whole thing. Well, I personally, I don't care if you're what you identify as because I see you as a person. But a lot of times the whole tradition, like if you're not straight, it's not right. Well, like I was raised with the idea of like my parents taught me treat everyone how you want to be treated. That's the golden rule. But then they turn back on that a lot of times and don't give that same respect to people that aren't like them.
Sorry?
I said, and I think that speaks on the generational gap, right?
Yeah, it does speak on the generational gap. I do believe so.
Yeah.
Well, guys.
Yeah.
I just want to say, this was like such a great conversation. We went 20 minutes over. And we really don't want to hold up anybody any longer. So I appreciate all of you guys, and I really appreciate all the answers and effort that you guys put into the discussion. It was very intuitive and it's very informative. I just hope that we can continue this on, like, because later on. So today we discussed like how influential culture can be. It manifests in many ways. For example, knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, rituals, and even roles. Culture can be carried from generation to generations, as we all explained today, as we all seen. It shapes who we are, it influences our daily decisions. We also shapes the lenses in which we see the world. Culture can be adapted to an environment or generation. In our lifetime, it is important that we learn to balance our culture and influences that arise. Again, I want to thank you guys all for joining us today. This discussion will be leading into our next series. It is a 3-part series, so the next one will be the second one. And we will be discussing the development and clashes of transnational families through culture. So like I said, I just want to thank all of you guys. This is like, I don't know, I feel proud right now, but I'm going to let Nella close it out.
I agree with Aminata. I'm really happy that we were able to have this discussion. And as Aminata opened up, she said that today's platform was to give youth a voice. And I think that you will be heard and that you guys are very intelligent and articulate. And I hope that you continue to not only voice yourselves, but you allow the next generation that you raise to also have a voice. So thank you all for joining us today. And for those of you who have just come across the series, please know that this is part 1 of 3. So please visit our website for more information and dates. Mentor in Motion is also open to new applicants for mentees and mentors. We are an online platform hoping to bridge the cultural gap as well as give mentoring to any West African youth who would love to have a mentor in their career field. So please pass this on to any high schoolers, incoming 9th graders, 9th to 12th, and please give us any referrals or signups on the website. You can also follow us on social media at Mentor in Motion.